morning, everybody. My name is Ilja, and I am from Seagrape Tours, and I'm going to tell you about how nature pays me, because I turned my hobby in looking at nature and watching birds into a job. So the ways nature pays on Sint Maarten, I will tell you more about that. There are more ways, of course, nature pays than just paying me as a tour guide. Then I'll go into ecotourism on Sint Maarten. Is there an opportunity for that on Sint Maarten? And I will tell you about bird watching on Sint Maarten, and with that, conservation. Well, my name is Ilja. I'm born in the Netherlands, and I studied communication. After my studies, I worked for 7 years in the Netherlands, and after that, I traveled around the world for a year with my husband, David. During the trip around the world, we visited Sint Maarten as well, and after the year we decided to come back and settle down on Sint Maarten, working in the scuba diving industry. I've been here now for 8 years, and I've worked basically all those years in the scuba diving industry up until April this year. Then I quit my job, and I'm now fully focusing on our own company, Seagrape Tours, where we do bird watching tours as well. This photo I took in Little Bay, right here, just under the fort, where you see the tiki hut floating on the water. Beautiful corals, even close to shore. You can even snorkel to them. This is my mom, vacationing on Sint Maarten. She was very important for my passion for nature, because I inherited it from her. She pointed out every flower, tree, bird, bug that we had in the garden. Even when we were in the car, when we were on vacation, she had a row of field guides and was always looking up names of creatures if we didn't know them. This is one of her photos. So I've always wanted to know what the names of the birds and everything are wherever I would go and wherever I went. So when we came to Sint Maarten, the first book that I bought here on Sint Maarten was The Incomplete Guide to the Wildlife of Sint Maarten by Mark. Because I just wanted to know what the birds and the bugs and everything was named that I would see in the garden and on the ponds and so on. So thank you very much for doing that, because if it wasn't for you, I would have had a harder time finding that out. So my husband and I started Seagrape Tours 2 years ago. And we do several tours. Birdwatching tour, this was our most popular tour. The first year it was our most popular tour. Then we came up with our history tour. Now this one is the most popular one. And we have a nature tour that we call the Peak Pond and Snorkel Tour. We visit Peak Paradis. We go to a pond for bird watching, iguanas as well, and at the end of the tour we snorkel. Usually around the big wreck you see sticking out in Marigot Bay, in Gallis Bay there. After it's been there for 20 years, there's quite some life to be seen on the wreck. Now, nature pays everyone. Not just people that are working in the tour guide industry and ecotourism. I just want to let you know, and just probably you already are aware of all of this, but I just want to show you how nature pays everyone. All our forests and wetlands house a lot of insects, and insects are very important for the pollination of our food, for instance. If we didn't have a lot of the insects, a great example is a bee, we would be missing out on a lot of our produce that we can now very conveniently buy in grocery stores. Another role that insects play is they take care of our dead animals. This was a dead goat on Tintelmar this summer. I saw it there. And what you see here mainly is the soldier crabs. They also take care of dead animals, and they clear it up, even dead wood, everything. They process it actually into nutrients, so it enriches our soil. Birds pay as well, because what they do is they catch a lot of insects. The insects that can harm us, mosquitoes. If it wasn't for birds in your garden, you would have lots more mosquitoes and Jack Spaniards and all of those type of insects. Centipedes. Birds also pollinate. The bird we just saw earlier, let me show you again. This is the grey kingbird. It's here on Sint Maarten. This is the green throated carrot, a hummingbird on St. Martin. They also pollinate, so they also take care of our food and fruit. This is not a bird on St. Martin, but it was a good picture of what birds do as well, is they eat seeds and berries, they fly away, poop it out, and then trees, forests can expand, and forests stay alive, because trees die, of course, over time. And because of birds, they will spread around, and the forest keeps on going, so they're very important to keep forest alive. Another part that's paying us, especially on St. Martin, all the salt ponds that we have in St. Martin and the fresh ponds, they have a very important role in sort of disaster management, where they sort of prevent natural disasters getting even bigger than they are, or they prevent them altogether. Because what the ponds do is, when we have a big storm and a lot of rainfall happens, it comes down the hills, all the water, and the ponds absorb the water, which prevents flooding. If we wouldn't have a pond, this is Great Salt Pond, by the way, beginning 1900, and this pond was able to absorb a lot of water, so Philipsburg wouldn't flood, Sucker Garden, all that area wouldn't flood. Now what we have these days is this. This is what Great Salt Pond looks like now. Lots built up, the island in the middle, of course, with our dump. The dump is just behind the hill, you can't really see it. You can also see Philipsburg is much wider than it was before. Here you see it's just a small strip, and now it's 6 streets wide instead of just 2. So what happens now is, when we have a big storm, almost every time when we have a storm or a hurricane, we have floodings. The roads are flooded, especially Pondville, where all the parked cars are, Sucker Garden, Arch Road, that whole area there gets flooded really easy. So nature pays preventing natural disasters. But you know, when we are messing with it, then we're messing with ourselves, really. Same thing goes for forests. They hold on to the rich soil that we have. When you have a lot of rainfall, you cut the forest, and then the soil will wash away. First of all, your rich soil is gone, so you can't have grow your vegetables or fruits there anymore. And if we're really unlucky, then this was cut close to the sea or to the coastline. And what then happens, all the rich nutrients will land up onto coral reefs, and they will suffocate as well. Because a lot of nutrients will create algae that will suffocate the reef, and also the sediment will block the lights that corals need to grow and to live. Corals on St. Martin also are very important. What they do is they prevent the big waves that are coming over the Atlantic from the Caribbean. When there are storms, they absorb a lot of the wave action. So if it wasn't for coral reefs, we wouldn't have our coastlines as it is today, because otherwise the wave would just crash right into land and, you know, take away all the sand that is there. Same for mangroves. They also protect our coastline during storms. Also very important we preserve those as much as we can. Not only for the insects and birds that live in them, but also to protect our coastline. And then forests and mangroves absorb a lot of carbon dioxide, and they produce oxygen. We can't live without oxygen. They also help protect the ozone layer, so, which means we get less UVB rays. Now, mangroves and corals, they have bacteria living in them that actually absorb, filter out pollutants out of the water. Mangroves and corals are also a source of our food. Most of the fish in the world live on coral reefs, especially the fish we like to eat. Now here you can see a great example of, if there weren't any mangroves, there would be less fish, because in between the mangroves roots, they sort of function as a nursery for fish. So with the fish eggs, and also for lobsters this is the case, and for konchs and so on, they start out between mangrove roots, some of them, then as they get bigger, the fish, they will go to the... That's when they're interesting for us, because then we can start eating them as they grow bigger. So, nature pays us, so it's very important we preserve our nature, we preserve our forests, our wetlands, our mangroves, our coral reefs. And luckily on St. Martin we have several organizations. One of them is the Nature Foundation. Nature is our future, and they are working hard. They've now been able to protect one pond on the Dutch side. On the French side, luckily, with the Reserve Naturel there, most of the ponds are protected, the shoreline is protected, so the French side is doing a very good job. On the Dutch side, we still have a lot to do to preserve what we have left. Now, nature pays the other way that it pays me directly is ecotourism. What is ecotourism? It's tourism directed toward exotic, often threatened natural environments, especially to support conservation efforts and observe wildlife. Now, when we look in the Caribbean, there are some real ecotour destinations. There's Costa Rica, here for example. Then we have Dominica, it's known for their ecotourism. And closer to home, we have Seba. They're also really focusing on the hiking and the diving. But what about St. Maarten? Do we have opportunities for ecotourism on St. Maarten? What we see here is Orient Beach. What St. Maarten has been doing in our tourism department for decades, they've focused on sun, sea and sand and shopping as well. With that type of focus, you are actually doing mass tourism. A lot of people are attracted to sun, sea and sand, and with that you get a lot of guests to the island that way. So mass tourism, that is large-scale tourism, what we have in St. Maarten, typically associated with sea, sand and sun, and it has characteristics such as transnational ownership, which is timeshare, what we have on St. Maarten. This is the West Inn, built over one pond that we had there. They are a timeshare company. They also have hotel facilities. And another pointer for mass tourism is that it has minimal direct economic benefit to destination communities. Of course, we are thriving here on St. Maarten because of mass tourism. I would not have been here without it, because I wouldn't have a job in scuba diving if it wasn't for tourism and worked in tourism or tourism-related derived jobs. It's also marked by seasonality, which we have here as well, and package tours. On St. Maarten, so far I'm aware that we only have 2 resorts, the Senesta resorts, that have an all-inclusive package. That already shows you that it has a minimal impact on our economy, because the people booking a Senesta hotel, their breakfast, their tours, breakfast, food, everything is included. So a lot of those people won't even leave the resort, just stay there, stay on the beach, and don't spend their money at the restaurants and on tours and in shops and so on. One example that I wanted to give you of the minimal economic effect locally with mass tourism is the Rainforest Adventure Park. They are building that at the moment next to the Emilio Wilson Park in the Dutch cul-de-sac. Now this sounds really eco, Rainforest Adventure Parks. They're going to be having chairlifts and zip lining over there. First of all, the rainforest thing doesn't really match because we have a dry tropical forest, so I'm not sure whether they're going to bring in different types of plants and push out our native vegetation and animals with that, or if they're going to keep it as it is. But what is the case with Rainforest Adventures is that it is related to, and I've heard that it is owned by, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's owned by Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. So what happens is all those people coming in on the cruise ships, they will book a tour on the ship. Normally, when you book a tour on the ship, 50% of the ticket price goes to the ship. The other 50% goes to the tour operator. But in this case, the Rainforest Adventure Park is owned by Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, so the other 50% also ends up at the same company, which means no income really for St. Maarten apart from the people that are working there. So on St. Maarten you will see that most of the tours are also focused on this mass tourism idea, the sun, sea, sand and shopping. At the cruise ship here, when you come off the cruise ships, the first thing you see is shopping, beaches and the taxis to get there. No focus on ecotourism at all. There are big buses. This bus can have up to 80 people. They will do an island tour. They will visit the beaches and the towns for shopping. No nature involved. And of course, a lot of people are doing water sports, so sun, sea, sand. The sea is also a big attraction. This is Little Bay right here, seen from Fort Amsterdam. Now, over the years, my husband and I wanted to start our own company. And in the Daily Herald, we've been reading articles that CEOs of cruise line companies are telling St. Martin, you have to diversify your product. What you are offering, Sunset Sand, is what is being offered throughout the Caribbean. You're not special. Part maybe from our dual nationality, but there's nothing really unique to your island as it's been promoted now to attract ships to stop at your island or even visitors to come over to St. Martin. This is Orient Beach again. If you look at Shoal Bay Beach in Anguilla, it's same type of thing. It's white sand, which is great. A lot of people love that during their vacation, but it's not unique. The diving and the snorkeling can also be done on all Caribbean islands, so we're not unique in that respect. So we started thinking what makes us unique and what is not being offered yet to the visitors of St. Martin. History. Our history makes us unique. The salt history, the French and the Dutch side, all the battles that took place here. Emilio Wilson, this is Fort Amsterdam. Nature, hiking. Nobody is really offering nature tours, hiking tours, taking people out and show that part of our island. And the birds. We have great amount of birds, as you can see here. And nobody's really showing the birds to the visitors of St. Martin. Binky van Es, who is having a little bird station outside of the university. You can come along with him, learn about how to take photos of birds and also see the photos that are in Great Salt Pond. He did some bird watching tours in the weekend when he was off, but he's very busy nowadays because next to his full-time job, he also is a member of the board of the Nature Foundation. And he wasn't really focusing as his core business doing that. So showing the birds to the guests of St. Martin is something that wasn't really happening. Is birding tourism interesting then? You know, we have nice birds, but will people come and look at them? Well, when you look at the United States of America, it is the fastest growing hobby, bird watching. And it is the largest hobby at the moment. 48 million people in the United States call themselves birdwatcher. Most of them are 50 years and older. And 42% of these people will travel to see birds. The rest of them will just sit in their garden and do birding in their garden. Yearly, $12 billion is spent on travel to see birds. So we thought we need to get a piece of that pie. But do we have that opportunity on St. Martin? Well, most of our guests here, 80% of the visitors to St. Martin are from the United States. And a lot of them are 50 years and older, especially the timeshare guests. This is a history professor from Charleston. He was on a history tour with us. They're a classic example. They actually have two timeshares, one at the Oyster Bay and one at the Westin. Here are more 50-plus folks that went along on birding in this case. So what does birding have to offer on St. Martin? Why is St. Martin special when it comes to bird watching? How can we attract people to St. Martin for bird watching? On St. Martin there are more than 150 recorded species. Normally when we do a bird watching tour, which takes around 3.5 hours, we see around 40. In summer it will be between 30 and 40 species, and in winter when we have a migratory birds, it's going to be 40 to 50 different birds that we see in 3.5 hours. We have a lot of birds here that you don't find anywhere else in the world. Those are called endemics. For example, the sugarbird. For us it's very normal, we see it every day and we have lots of them, but for people coming from Europe and the United States, they've never seen this bird before. It's called the banana quit. The Antillean crested hummingbird is also unique. It's in the smaller Antillean islands and east of Puerto Rico. Then the white-cheeked pintail, this duck, seems like a normal duck, but this duck is also called the Bahama duck. You'll only find it in the Caribbean as well.
Is it migratory or is it endemic?
It's endemic, it stays here year-round. This is the American coot, and it's the Caribbean subspecies of the American coot. So this one you'll also only see in the Caribbean. Now, these endemic birds are very interesting for bird watchers, especially who keep a life list. There are bird watchers that write down every bird they see in their life, and then, you know, their goal is to get to maybe 10,000, because 10,000 is the amount of different species of birds we have in the world. I often get requests from bird watching guests. They send me an email and they say, okay, I want to see this, this, and that bird. I don't have it on my list. I know you should have it in your area, so please show me those birds. Once I had a guy, a doctor, Dr. Bayer from Germany, and his life list had 8,000 birds. So he had already seen 8,000 birds when he came on a cruise to St. Martin. The only thing he does is travel year-round to see birds everywhere. So I was pretty like, whoa, you know, if you've already seen so many birds in the world, okay, come along, we'll see what we can find. But I was able to show him 8 birds that he'd never seen before, which was great for him. And, you know, I feel good about St. Martin because we have these birds to show him. Another bird that a lot of bird watchers are targeting, as they call it, is the mangrove cuckoo. Also lives here in the mangroves. It's hard to find, and people will even pay for a private tour to see that one. So they just want to go with me to see this bird. Another bird is a scaly-breasted thresher, which can only be found really on peak parity, and they will pay extra just to make sure that I'll take them to the area that I might not even visit during a normal tour, so they have a chance of seeing this bird. Next to that, all of that, the endemics and the amount of species we have, we're also on the migration route of a lot of the birds. When you look on the map here, this is the Atlantic America migration route and the Central America migration route. All of these birds will fly over St. Martin or over the Caribbean to go further south in winter and come back again in spring when they're back on their way up north to go nesting in the Arctic, even as far as the Arctic. So what's interesting for the visitors from the United States is that the birds from the Arctic, from this area, come visit us here on St. Martin. So they won't be able to see them here. They come here to see those birds as well. Same for, otherwise they have to go there. This is closer. One of those birds that they can find here that is on the Arctic in summer is the whimbrel. Outside there are better photos at the little station here of the whimbrel. It has a large curved beak. It's a wading bird. So that one flies all the way up north through the Caribbean to the south. In summer, we're also still interesting. So mass tourism is really has seasonality, but eco-tours can be done the whole year round. There are interesting phenomena taking place the whole year. Summer, we have nesting seabirds that come to St. Martin. These are least terns. Hundreds and thousands, maybe, of those birds come to St. Martin. Also the laughing gull, more birds, and they come to nest here. So that's also really interesting to come around, especially like on islands, offshore islands as Dog Island. The frigate birds nest there then, and the brown boobies, mouse boobies, sooty terns. That's a great visit, especially during summer when we have flat seas and you can see all of these nesting seabirds. So we came up with a birdwatching tour. This tour was our best-selling tour in the first year that we were doing our business. And why is that? Because people that are birdwatchers and that go on vacation, first thing they do is they type in on Google, birdwatching St. Martin. They want to see the birds. So that's how they found us. Last year we introduced a history tour. This is now our best-selling tour. A lot of the people that find us through the hotels. The activity desks have our brochures, and nobody's offering a history tour of St. Martin. And there's lots to tell. So yeah, people love that type of tour. And then our peak pond and snorkel tour is booked mostly by people who are just browsing on TripAdvisor and see the best rated and recommended tours for St. Martin, and they will find the peak pond and snorkel tour, which is a bit of bird watching, a bit of history, and snorkeling as well. Because there is stuff happening around birds, like the Migratory Bird Festival, the Birds and Bugs Festival that we have. Binky is doing a lot for birds. The EPIC is doing teaching classrooms about birds, taking classrooms about birding. We are available on the internet to be found about birding tours in St. Martin. You see that it's being picked up in the media. In Reader's Digest, there's one journalist from Reader's Digest Canada. She wrote an article about the top 10 best birdwatching destinations, tropical, well, I would say Caribbean birding destinations, and St. Martin was listed in the top 10. So it's sort of a snowball effect. Because we are more doing about bird watching on St. Martin, the media picks it up, they publish it, other people see it, and we get more visitors and so on. Now, during our bird watching tours, where are we going? We go to Great South Pond, right here close by, next to the Cross the Talon building on the Pondville parking lot, right there, and see a lot of birds already. People are surprised always that they can see so many birds so close to the cars and the traffic. Another pond is Fresh Pond. Then we have one birding facility on the Dutch side. That's the birding hut in Little Bay Fresh Pond over here. Then we have on the French side, there are more facilities for bird watching. This is an oyster pond at Etang de Baie-Lucas, close to the resort there that was sort of left after Hurricane Louis, Coralita Residences. Saline d'Orient, the area there close to Le Galion, great area for bird watching. And of course also at our homes. This is an endemic, this is the Antillean bullfinch, Lesser Antillean bullfinch, bird only seen on the smaller islands in the Antilles. Another hummingbird, a crested hummingbird. To see the hummingbirds, a lot of the bird watchers love to see the hummingbirds that we have here. It is pretty hard to just find them randomly in the wild like that. So what I do is I actually visit the butterfly farm. They have feeders hanging there, and my guests can use the bathroom there as well, and they can see a lot of the birds that are otherwise hard to find because they're attracted by the feeders there. Future for ecotourism, our future here on St. Martin as an ecotour company. I'm busy at the moment developing a tour, a package tour to attract groups of bird watchers, so I can take them around St. Martin, and they will also visit Saba. On Saba there are birds that we don't have here, and St. Eustatius. Eustatia yet again has other birds that we don't have here either, so hopefully that'll work. Then what we also like to focus on more is group tours, especially on St. Martin with companies and their staff, so staff outings. We've done a couple. People have contacted us to design a tour with a bit of history, a bit of hiking, or whatever they wanted to do. This is the cabinet of the governor's staff that went along on a history tour. This here is Moho Rock, the engraved rock by the Arawak Indians, if you haven't seen that yet. Maybe you recognize this lady here. It's our ombudsman, Nilda Arduin. She went along with our staff, with her staff as well on one of our tours. Future for us as well. Currently, I'm the only one doing our tours full-time. My husband is still working in the scuba diving industry, so hopefully one day we'll both be working full-time for our company. The bus you see here, we only rent that one when we have a large group of private group of guests. Otherwise, we only take 6 guests per tour maximum. I think that's also one of the unique selling points that we have, that it's nice and small, personable, versus the big mass tours. Maybe in the future we'll be able to hire more guides, but we'll be so busy that we have several tours a day going out. So for us to keep our job, it's very important that we conserve the ponds and the wetlands and the forests on St. Martin, because without them we don't have bird watchers and there's no Seagrape Tours. conservation is important. So what we do is we donate $2 per guest to nature conservation on St. Martin. The proceeds last year went to the Nature Foundation and to Le Fou de Mer, and hopefully, and I'm sure the amount already of guests that we had this year already doubled compared to last year. So we'll be able to help a little bit with the conservation of our nature here on St. Martin. Thank you very much for your attention.